Hello guys, and thank you for stopping by. Today we'll get acquainted with Deviant Moon Tarot created by Patrick Valenza. And this deck is not a new deck in the market. It has been there for a while. And actually, this deck was considered by many to be one of the best 10 decks in 2008 and 2013. So what is so unusual about this deck? So many images actually came to Patrick in his dreams, and it took 3 years for the project of creation of this deck to be completed, but actually it took much more than that. Patrick once mentioned that it could be like 30 years when different works appeared, and then he incorporated previously done work into this deck. But it's much more to that. Every single card is full of symbolism and different personal touch, I would say. So many images came from kind of asylum or, cemeteries, graveyard, or even objects that Patrick could see in his backyard. So it's more about thinking out of the box and creating the deck out of, inner connection with something spiritual, creating something different. So speaking about cards, it's borderless edition. And you've got two cards which can be used as blank cards if you do readings with blank cards. So I would like just to share some impressions that I've got from this deck. As many consider this deck to be dark or even, kind of gloomy, I don't. I totally like this deck, and it's quite unusual. You can read cards as traditional meaning of Rider-Waite-Smith, no problem with that. But if you would like to get more information about any topic you are making a spread about, you can get connected to the cards on more spiritual level and give deeper interpretation to the cards. For example, have a look at the 4 cards. It's not traditional 4 cards that you can see on other tarot decks. So you don't see a dog here, it's a fish here, and the fish is actually biting the 4, while 4 is kind of running, right? He's running away from something and it's looking back. And have a look at the colors. It's very important to pay attention to the colors. You've got white and red here, and white is definitely innocence, and red is more about passion. But when there is too much passion, it could even turn into some kind of aggression, I would say. So there is shadow side to every single card, and also, the bright side to it. As is Deviant Moon Tarot cards, you can see moon almost on every single image. And if there is no moon, then there is a question why it's not there. And have a look at the High Priestess. We don't have any book of knowledge here. She's more in protecting position, like defending herself. And you can see kind of double faces, 2 faces, or 2 sides to one and the same face. And right side is our conscious side, and left side is our subconscious side. So when you have a look at her wings, they're kind of made of stone. And have a look at Hierophant. It's like he's got crab claws instead of hands. And the Empress. This card is all about abundance and luxury and all that kind of stuff. But she's looking more to the left, to the past, right? And the Emperor is looking more towards future. And the Death card You see, the death is actually pregnant. It's more about ending and new beginning at the same time, and you wouldn't see any lion on the strength card. You see, it's more about emotional connection and be able to face your own emotions, to handle your own temper. And the moon card, you can see two persons here, and they definitely look like they've just left asylum. Four of Swords. As I mentioned before, it's kind of really showing graveyard. And the Chariot card, I read about this card creation, and I believe Patrick mentioned that the idea came from some parts that he saw, parts of the car and vacuum cleaner or something like that. But some cards are very, bright, I would say, as for example, Ace of Swords. You're just cutting through any obstacles, and the card of Triumph, definitely. For example, Three of Wands, it's all about waiting till your plans will come to fruition. And you can see this representation, right? And very beautiful family cards. And what is interesting about this deck, if you have a look at all pentacles, they are all different. They are either different in shape or they are different in color. So they are quite different. And it's quite interesting. So, for example, this one is blue. This one doesn't have any background. It's more like transparent background. This one is on black. These completely different shapes and colors. So it's quite interesting, right? And these are golden ones. So what I would like to do now is just I would like to do a tarot spread, which is basically what the deck would like to tell us about itself and what it can give you as practitioner. If you are interested in cards from perspective of artwork only, then you can jump straight to section 3, which is basically cards flip through. Okay. So, how the deck perceives itself, what the deck thinks about itself. And we've got Two of Cups, and this card is telling me about fruitful cooperation. So getting connected with intuition. As you know, every person has two sides of conscious and subconscious, right? So this deck is asking you to work using both your intuition and your logic. So I would say that the deck would like to tell us that all the cards are kind of perfect marriage between conscious and subconscious. So this deck is giving us an opportunity to work on conscious level and do interpretation of the cards based on Rider-Waite-Smith, or just do cards reading on subconscious level, getting connected with your intuition and trying to channel messages. You see, and it should be fruitful collaboration, definitely. This deck is open to work with practitioners. And what deck considers it to be its strong side, yeah? And we've got King of Pentacles. And King of Pentacles is telling me that there is a lot of knowledge and symbolism in this particular deck. And you can master that. And what could be, topics that this deck wouldn't like to work with, or if, you know, there is any weakness in this deck. And we've got 5 of coins, and this deck is telling me that it basically okay, I'm channeling the message that some people can be kind of finding this deck a little bit gloomy or dark, and because of that they cannot get really connected with the deck. 5 of coins, you know, the card of crisis, and it could take time for some practitioners actually to understand this deck, just because after 5 of coins we could move to 6 of coins, actually about giving and receiving, right? So the weakness of this deck could be that it's not for everyone. It definitely has, you know, a strong point, King of Pentacles. Definitely this deck has got its own circle of practitioners who love this deck, and I'm one of them, and work with this deck and find it absolutely beautiful and amazing. But there could be some people, as the 5 of coins, that find this deck either not appealing for them, or they actually could be scared of this deck, could be not feeling comfortable to work with this deck. You see? Someone is hiding there. Okay, but what this deck could give you as practitioner? And you've got 10 of Wands. And this card is telling me that as a practitioner, there is a lot of work working with this deck. You can learn a lot, you see? But it's not a burden. He's got all these wands, not as a bag, but, you know, as treasure in front of him. And, you know, it's full moon, and full moon is representation of our subconscious side. So it's more about getting connected to intuition, channeling messages, trying to see what is behind every single card. But it's definitely hard work. And what would be, you know, the best way to work with this deck? And you've got 6 of Wands, and it's all about, you know, getting support from others. It could be getting support from manual, trying to read more information and celebrate your victories. So when you do the spread, you write everything in your journal, and then you come back once the spread played out perfectly well, and you celebrate all these little victories on your way of development and trying to learn to work with this particular deck. And what would be the outcome of your collaboration with this deck? And you've got King of Wands, and this card telling me is about, it's all about your career progression. You see? He's got his fire, and he's got, it's actually a father and his kids, and they are kind of very much attached to him. So you can have your audience, you can have people who like to have tarot spreads done with this particular deck, and you can grow professionally. Okay, thank you so much for being with me, and I would be very much happy to hear from you if you work with this deck, what you think about this deck, if you got it easy to get connected to the images in this particular deck. So please leave your comments below this video, and for those who would like to have a closer look at all the cards from perspective of artwork, let's continue. And now let's go through all the cards together.